Let's say that someone has either found this show based on searching your name and they're a new user of Meez and they're just like, hey, I'm kind of interested in what the founder has to say about this product, or someone is hearing of this product for the first time and just potentially like is scrolling the landing page right now and potentially thinking about giving it a try. What are some examples that you've seen of like great power user usages of Meez to just kind of paint the picture of kind of like what this looks like being used properly and intentionally and at like the highest level?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, Meez should be the source of truth of all your culinary IP, right? Like all of your recipes and all of your content should live in there, and then it should be disseminated to your team, and that's how the technology is built, right? So that you can disseminate to your team, and someone can have view access, and someone can have edit access to different things, and whenever you update something, everybody gets notified in real time. Hey, this sauce was updated. It's got more sugar in it now. So you always have the right, the right, recipe in front of everybody, every cook's hands, and so the source of truth, of the content is one of the most important things. And I think it feels innocuous as a product value prop, but it's really, really important because, as you know, in kitchens, it gets really scary when two people have a different recipe. And then, we just sort of double down on that with everything else, right? Like, okay, now I'm using this recipe, and with every recipe app that's out there, if you want to make a scaled up version of that recipe, well, maybe you can make a 2x or a 3x, and you're limited in that capacity. But then also, like, if you scale it up or scale it down, maybe it says like 0.045 cups of something or 317 teaspoons, and nobody can measure that. So we built logic around like converting units where we actually measure them in the in the kitchen. And then we also know that, life isn't perfect. And when you make a tomatillo salsa, and your recipe calls for 4,500 grams of tomatillos, and you get your case of tomatillos in, and after you clean them, turns out you only have, 4,911 grams or something. That's more than that.
Yeah,
but, you can scale your recipe based on any ingredient. So if you're running low on something, you can scale the entire recipe in one click. No work on your end. It's all built in for you. And that's because of not just the scaling technology, but the hardest part about getting recipes into any system is that there's so much information that you need to put in addition to your recipe. You have to put in how much loss when you peel an onion, or how much does a cup of shredded, radishes weigh, or how much does dark rye flour weigh versus all-purpose flour, and what is the conversion between those things, and what are the allergens associated with tahini versus this? All that is like things that you have to put in that have nothing to do with you cooking, and so we just got rid of all that. We just said, we're going to build that in for you. And so we hired RDNs, and I had all my chefs on staff at restaurants, and we spent years just like building out that database. So when you create a recipe, all that's just built in for you. So you just focus on like the like putting in a good recipe, and we'll make sure that it's costed right. You can convert it, you can scale it, and you can see nutrition and allergens and all that jazz.
What about in the and forgive me if this is just something I'm unaware of, but like in the development process of a new dish, like how does that work with Meez? If I have an idea to make, kind of like a braised pork belly dish with a tomatillo salsa, like how does that work?
Yep. Yes, there's a lot of stuff we're doing on that. Like I always was fascinated by Airbnb's approach to experience, and they had like this 11-star experience. And,
amazing exercise. Can you actually explain that to people? Because I've done that. So when I was doing pop-ups, I did that with my team as like describe an 11-star experience. So valuable. So can you explain that for people who haven't done that before?
Yeah, absolutely. And Brian Chesky obviously would do a better job of explaining this. But the idea being like, okay, a 5-star experience is that, my Airbnb is ready for me, and the key is there, and the apartment's clean, right? And then, an 8-star experience is I get there, the apartment's clean, and they know that I like this show on Netflix, and it's like playing when I get there, and they know that I love, dark chocolate almonds, and those are in the fridge for me. And then, the 11-star experience is that, I get flown to the city, and there's a parade waiting for me, and they're going to take me to the Airbnb, and my favorite chef is bringing me the food, and they sort of think about like, okay, what would this look like at its best? What would be at like maybe the impossible to like to the basics, to the table stakes. And I do the same thing with Meez, right? We're constantly incrementally building to what this the 11-star experience will be. Right now, what it means is you can document your ideas in the docs. We built this thing called docs, which you can document ideas. They're all searchable and shareable, and then you can convert those into a recipe. And then you can take that recipe, and of course, when we make a recipe, let's just say that we're going to make, some sort of sauce, right? We're going to make a small amount. We're probably going to make like 220 grams of this sauce, right? But then, for sure, when we make it in the restaurant, for service, we're probably going to make 4 quarts of it, right? So we built technology that allows you to take that 200-gram batch that you made and scale it up and make that the new 1 times batch. And we created sort of R&D like bifurcation so that you can create recipes that you're working on and none of your team can see them. So if you have a new salsa verde and everybody else has the live one, then they won't see the one you're working on unless you want them to. So they always, you can be working in the background while there's new things going on. That's today, right? The future state is, I'm working on a dish. Clearly, like I have, whether it's an iPhone or an iPad or any device, and I just start talking, okay, I'm adding 20 grams of shallots, and it adds that for me because it's connected to the scale. Maybe I don't even need to say that. When I put in 20 grams of shallots, now that's added to my recipe. And I might have an idea because I'm at a restaurant and I think about something, and now I can draw down that idea, and that gets added to my recipe as a picture. And just thinking about from inception, when does the inception of the idea happen? And how do we carry that all the way through to a recipe that's live in the restaurant executed by my team? So that's how I think about this sort of like the journey of how this will work as we keep going on, which means IoT devices, which means more OCR technology and touch screen and voice activation and things like that.